My son Darius stood in my living room, the living room where I'd raised him, where his father Leonard had taught him to ride a bike on rainy days, where we'd celebrated every birthday and holiday for 37 years. His designer suit probably cost more than my monthly expenses. His new wife Vanessa stood behind him, her arms crossed, her face cold as January. I looked at my boy, my baby. The child I'd carried for 9 months, nursed through colic, walked to his first day of school. The young man his father and I had sacrificed everything to send to business school. "You sold Leonard's company?" I asked quietly. "It was my company," Darius snapped. "Dad left it to me. And honestly, Mom, we need the money more than you need to keep living in this big house." Playing like you're still married to somebody important. Something inside me went still. Cold. Clear. I smiled. Darius blinked. He'd expected tears. Begging. Maybe anger. "All right," I said softly. "Good luck." "Good luck?" Vanessa laughed. It was a cruel sound. "We're going to Milan for 2 weeks. First class. 5-star hotel. You're going to figure out how to pay your bills without Dad's precious company dividends." They left. The door slammed. I stood in my living room, Leonard's and my living room, and kept smiling. Before we continue, please tell us where you're watching from so we know how far our stories reach, and subscribe to the channel to help us grow. Let me take you back to where this really started. Not today, not last week, but 38 years ago when I was a young woman named Dorothy Mitchell, and I met a man named Leonard Williams at my cousin's wedding reception. Leonard was a mechanic. He had grease under his fingernails and a smile that lit up the whole room. We danced to Luther Vandross that night, and he told me he had a dream of opening his own auto repair shop. "I'm going to build something," he said. "Something real. Something that lasts." We got married 6 months later at Sweet Hope Baptist Church. Pastor Jenkins married us. The whole community came. My mother made her famous peach cobbler, and Leonard's uncle Jerome played the saxophone. We didn't have much money, but we had love. We had faith. We had each other. 2 years later, Darius was born. Leonard worked 70-hour weeks at other people's shops, saving every penny. I worked as a secretary at the courthouse downtown, typing up legal documents and learning how the system worked. At night, I took accounting classes at the community college. Leonard would come home exhausted, grease-stained, and still find energy to hold our baby boy while I studied. "You're going to be somebody," he'd tell Darius, rocking him to sleep. "Your mama and I are building something for you." When Darius was 3, Leonard finally opened Williams Auto Repair. It was a tiny shop in a rough neighborhood, but it was ours. I kept the books. Leonard fixed the cars. We built that business one transmission, one brake job, one loyal customer at a time. The Black community supported us. Mr. Henderson from the church brought his Buick. Mrs. Patterson sent her nephew. Coach Daniels from the high school brought the whole football team's cars. Word spread. Leonard Williams was honest. He was skilled. He charged fair prices. "Dorothy keeps everything running smooth," Leonard would tell customers. "She's the real boss around here." He wasn't wrong. I managed every dollar, tracked every expense, built relationships with suppliers, negotiated better rates. I learned the business inside and out while raising our son and still working part-time at the courthouse. By the time Darius was 10, Williams Auto Repair had expanded to 3 locations. We'd hired 20 employees. We'd become something real in our community, not just a business, but a place where young men could learn a trade, where people could get reliable service at fair prices, where we gave back through church scholarships and youth programs. Leonard never forgot where we came from. "We're blessed," he'd say at Sunday dinner. So, we bless others. Architected narrative arc establishing family backstory and building toward pivotal betrayal moment. Good start. I'm building the backstory authentically, showing the parents' hard work and sacrifice. Now I need to continue showing how the business grew, how they raised Darius, and hint at where things started to go wrong. I need to build toward the cliffhanger at the end of Chapter 1. Let me continue with the business growth, Darius's education, meeting Vanessa, and Leonard's death. Darius grew up in that shop. After school, he'd do his homework in the office while I balanced the books. Leonard taught him how to change oil, how to treat customers with respect, how to work hard. "This will all be yours one day, son," Leonard told him. "Your mama and I built this for you." We sent Darius to college, Howard University. We were so proud. My baby at an HBCU, getting the education we never had. We paid every tuition bill, every fee. Leonard took on extra jobs. I worked longer hours. We sacrificed everything. Darius came home different after his first year. He talked differently, dressed differently. He had new friends, kids whose parents were doctors and lawyers and executives. "Mom, you don't understand modern business," he'd say when I'd try to talk to him about the shop. "Maybe not," I'd reply gently, "but I understand what built the business that's paying for your education." After graduation, Darius worked for a big corporation in New York for 5 years. He'd call maybe once a month. Come home for Christmas, stay 2 days, seem restless the whole time. Then Leonard got sick. Cancer, pancreatic, aggressive. Darius came home. I'll give him that. He sat by his father's bedside. He held his hand. He cried. "Son," Leonard said weakly, "the business is yours now. But promise me something. Take care of your mother. She built this with me. She's not just my wife. She's my partner. Promise me." "I promise, Dad," Darius said. Leonard squeezed my hand. "Dorothy, you're the strongest woman I know. Don't let nobody make you forget that." He passed 3 days later. The funeral was huge. The church overflowed with people whose lives Leonard had touched. Customers, employees, young men he'd mentored, families he'd helped. Pastor Jenkins gave the eulogy. "Leonard Williams was a builder," he said. "He built businesses, yes. But more than that, he built people up. He built community. He built legacy." I sat in the front pew with Darius and cried for the man who'd been my everything for 35 years. The will was simple. Leonard left the business to Darius. He left the house to me. He left instructions that I should continue receiving my salary from the company as chief financial consultant, the same role I'd always had, and dividends from the profits. "Your mother earned this," the will said. "She built this business as much as I did. Honor her, care for her, listen to her." For the first year, Darius did. He called me every week, stopped by for Sunday dinner, asked my advice about business decisions. Then he met Vanessa. She was beautiful, I'll give her that. Model thin, designer clothes, expensive tastes. She worked in marketing for some company she could never quite explain. They got married 6 months after meeting. I tried to be happy for my son, but something felt wrong. The way she looked at our house, at the business, like she was calculating value, the way she'd interrupt when Darius and I talked about company decisions. "That's boring business talk," she'd say. "Darius, we need to discuss the Italy trip." Italy. Always Italy. It was her dream destination. She talked about Milan like it was heaven on earth. After the wedding, things changed fast. Darius stopped calling me for advice. He started making decisions without consulting me. My name was still on the company documents as CFO, but suddenly I wasn't invited to meetings. "Mom, you don't understand modern markets," he'd say. "Times have changed." "The principles haven't," I'd reply. "Honesty, hard work, fair prices, community." He'd just shake his head like I was some old woman who didn't understand the real world. My salary checks started coming late. Then they started being smaller. "We're restructuring," Darius explained when I asked. "Cutting unnecessary costs." "I'm an unnecessary cost?" "Mom, you don't even come to the office anymore." "Because you told me I didn't need to." The dividends stopped. The benefits changed. Suddenly, the health insurance that had covered Leonard and me for decades was too expensive. I started noticing other changes. Leonard's policies, the ones about hiring from the community, mentoring young people, maintaining fair prices, were being abandoned. Old employees were being fired and replaced with cheaper labor. Quality was slipping. Customers started calling me. "Miss Dorothy, what's happening to the shop?" "It's not the same." I tried to talk to Darius. He wouldn't listen. "This is my company now, Mom. Dad left it to me." "He left it to you to honor his legacy, not destroy it." "His legacy was outdated. I'm building something bigger." The company was making more money, I'll give him that. But it wasn't the same business Leonard and I had built. It wasn't a place of community anymore. It was just another corporation squeezing profits from people. Last month, Darius called me for the first time in weeks. "Mom, Vanessa and I need to talk to you." They came over that Sunday. Vanessa wore sunglasses inside. Darius looked uncomfortable. "We've made some decisions," he said. "About what?" "About your situation." "My situation?" Vanessa took off her sunglasses. "You're living in a house you can't afford. You're collecting money from a company you don't work for. It's not sustainable." I looked at my son. "Darius, this is the house your father built. This is—" "Dad's gone, Mom," he said, and his voice was cold. "And you need to face reality. You're a burden." That word hung in the air. Burden. "I'm selling the company," he continued. "I've got a buyer offering $8 million. Vanessa and I can finally live the life we deserve. We're going to Milan for 2 weeks to celebrate. And when we get back, we need to talk about you downsizing." "Downsizing?" "Maybe a nice little apartment. Something affordable. We can't keep supporting you forever." I sat there in the house Leonard and I had bought 40 years ago, the house we'd raised our son in, and looked at the stranger wearing my baby's face. That's when Vanessa smiled her cruel smile and said, "Good luck paying rent." And that's when I smiled back and said, "All right, good luck." The door slammed. I sat there for maybe 5 minutes. Then I walked upstairs to the bedroom I'd shared with Leonard for 35 years. I opened the closet. I moved aside the winter coats, and I opened the safe. Inside were documents, papers that Leonard and I had prepared years ago with our lawyer, Mr. Theodore Blackwell, who'd been handling our business since the very beginning. Papers that Darius had never bothered to read carefully. Papers that showed something very important. When Leonard's will left the company to Darius, it did so with very specific conditions. Conditions that Darius had just violated. Conditions that had consequences. I picked up my phone and called Mr. Blackwell. "Theodore, it's Dorothy Williams. I need you to do exactly what we discussed in 2021. "Are you sure, Dorothy?" His voice was gentle. He'd known our family for decades. "Once we do this, there's no going back." "I'm sure. My son just sold his father's company. He called me a burden. He's about to get on a plane to Milan." There was a pause, then, "Give me 2 hours. I'll have everything filed by end of business today." I hung up and called my friend Beatrice Harper, my neighbor of 20 years, a retired attorney who'd become one of my closest friends after Leonard passed. "Bea, I need you to come over." "What's wrong, sugar?" "Everything. And I'm about to make it right." Beatrice came over within 15 minutes, still wearing her church clothes. I showed her the documents. I showed her the text messages from Darius about selling the company. I showed her the paperwork from Mr. Blackwell. She read everything carefully, her lawyer's mind working. Then she looked up at me, and she was smiling. "Oh, Dorothy, oh, honey, they have no idea what's about to hit them." "None at all," I agreed. "When do they fly out?" "Tomorrow morning." "And when will they check their bank accounts?" "Probably when they land in Milan. Vanessa likes to post about money on social media." Beatrice laughed. It was a sound of pure justice. Dorothy Williams, you are about to teach your son the most expensive lesson of his life. I spent that evening at church. Pastor Jenkins found me in the sanctuary, sitting in the same pew where Leonard and I used to sit every Sunday. Sister Dorothy, you all right? I told him everything. About Darius. About Vanessa. About the company. About what I was about to do. Pastor Jenkins sat down beside me. He was quiet for a long moment. The Bible tells us to honor our parents, he finally said. Not just when it's convenient. Not just when they're young and useful. Always. I know. You built that business alongside Leonard. You sacrificed everything for that boy. I did. And now you're going to teach him what his father should have made clearer in that will. I am. Pastor Jenkins put his hand on my shoulder. God sees you, sister. He knows what you've done. And sometimes, love means letting people face the consequences of their choices. Amen, I whispered. The next morning, I woke up early. I made coffee. I sat in my kitchen, the kitchen where I'd made breakfast for my family for 40 years, and waited. At 10 a.m., my phone buzzed. A notification from Instagram. Vanessa had posted a photo from the airport. 2 first-class tickets to Milan, caption reading, "Finally living our best life, @Milan, @luxury lifestyle, #worth it." I sipped my coffee. At 2 p.m., my phone buzzed again. A text from Mr. Blackwell. All documents filed with the court, effective immediately. Account freezes will happen tonight at midnight. At 3 p.m., Beatrice called. I just heard from a friend at the bank. Darius tried to make a large withdrawal this morning before his flight. They processed it, but everything else gets frozen in 9 hours. So they'll have what's in their pockets and whatever they withdrew today? Exactly. And they have no idea what's coming. Thank you, B. Dorothy, your husband would be proud of you. I hung up and cried. Not sad tears, relieved tears, tired tears. Tears that had been building for 3 years of disrespect and dismissal. The next morning I woke to my phone ringing. And ringing. And ringing. 53 missed calls, all from Darius. Dozens of texts. Mom, call me now. What did you do? Mom, this isn't funny. Call me back. Our accounts are frozen. Mom, please. The last text came at 3 a.m. Milan time. Mom, please, we're stuck here. We can't access any money. The hotel is demanding payment. What's happening? Please call me back. I set my phone down. I poured another cup of coffee, and I went back to reading the legal documents that explained exactly what had just happened to my son and his wife. The documents that showed the truth. The company had never been entirely his to sell. And now, 8,000 miles away in Milan, with frozen bank accounts and no way home, Darius was about to learn what his father and I had known all along. Dorothy Williams wasn't a burden. She was the foundation, and you don't sell the foundation and expect the house to stand. I let Darius call 53 times before I finally answered on the 54th. Mom? His voice was panicked, raw. I'd never heard my son sound like that. Mom, thank God, what's happening? Our accounts, everything's frozen. We can't access anything. The hotel is threatening to call the police. Good morning, Darius, I said calmly. How's Milan? Silence. Then, how's Milan? Mom, we're stranded. We have maybe 300 euros between us. Vanessa's credit cards aren't working. The bank says there's a legal hold on all our accounts. What did you do? I didn't do anything, baby. You did. What are you talking about? You sold your father's company. It was my company. Dad left it to me. I took a slow breath. Darius, did you actually read your father's will? The whole thing? Or just the part where you got the company? What? Let me read you something. This is from Leonard Williams's Last Will and Testament, page 7, section 14, subsection C. I picked up the document Mr. Blackwell had given me years ago. The business known as Williams Auto Repair and all subsidiary holdings are hereby bequeathed to Darius Leonard Williams, with the following non-negotiable conditions. 1. Dorothy Mitchell. Williams shall retain her position as Chief Financial Officer with full voting rights on all major business decisions. 2. Dorothy Mitchell Williams shall receive 40% of all company profits in perpetuity. 3. Any sale, merger, or substantial change in company structure requires the written consent of Dorothy Mitchell Williams. Failure to honor these conditions results in immediate transfer of full ownership to Dorothy Mitchell Williams, and all transactions made in violation of these terms are rendered null and void. The silence on the other end of the phone was absolute. "Mom," Darius finally whispered, You have 40%? I have 40%. I've always had 40%. Your father made sure of it because I earned it. I built that company with him, Darius. Every brick, every customer, every success. Did you really think he'd just give it all away and leave me with nothing? But I'm his son, and I'm his widow, his partner, his equal. The will gave you the company to run, to grow, to honor his legacy. But it protected me, and it protected the business from exactly what you just tried to do. What I tried to... Mom, I sold it. The deal is done. The money is frozen because the sale is invalid. You didn't have the authority to sell the company without my written consent, which you never asked for. So the moment the sale went through, the conditions in your father's will were triggered. As of yesterday at 5 p.m., ownership of Williams Auto Repair transferred entirely to me. The buyer's money is in escrow pending legal resolution. And you, my son, violated a legally binding agreement. I heard Vanessa's voice in the background, sharp and angry. What is she saying? The company's hers, Darius said, his voice hollow. It's all hers. The sale is invalid. Vanessa's scream was loud enough that I heard it clearly through the phone. Mom, please, Darius begged. Please, we're stuck here. We have no money. We used our savings for this trip. The hotel bill alone is 8,000 euros. We have no way to pay it. They're talking about involving the authorities. Please, Mom, please help us. For a moment, just one moment, I felt my heart soften. This was my baby, my son, the child I'd carried and raised and loved. Then I remembered. You're a burden, Mom. Darius, I said quietly, your father and I sacrificed everything for you. We worked 70-hour weeks so you could go to college. We went without so you could have. We built something real, something meaningful, and we wanted to share it with you. All your father asked, all he asked, was that you take care of me and honor what we built together. I know, You called me a burden. You sold your father's legacy without even telling me. You cut my salary, stopped my dividends, and told me I needed to move out of the house I've lived in for 40 years. You and that woman planned a luxury vacation to celebrate getting rid of me. Mom, I'm sorry. I'm so sorry. Vanessa, Don't you dare blame her. You're a grown man. You made your choices. Please, he sobbed. Please, Mom. What do I do? You figure it out, I said, like I would have had to figure out how to pay rent. Good luck, baby. I hung up. My hands were shaking. Beatrice, who'd spent the night in my guest room, came into the kitchen and pulled me into a hug. You did the right thing, she said. Then why does it hurt so much? Because you're a mother. Because you love him even when he doesn't deserve it. But Dorothy, sometimes love means letting people face their consequences. My phone rang again. I declined the call. It rang 17 more times before I turned it off. The news spread through our community like wildfire. By Sunday morning, everyone at Sweet Hope Baptist Church knew. I walked in for service, and the whispers followed me down the aisle. But they weren't cruel whispers. They were supportive. Sister Geraldine from the choir hugged me tight. We heard what that boy did. Lord have mercy, after everything you and Leonard did for him. Brother Marcus, who'd worked at the shop for 20 years before Darius fired him last year, shook his head. Miss Dorothy, we all knew something wasn't right. The way he changed things, fired good people, raised prices, that wasn't the business Mr. Leonard built. Pastor Jenkins called me up during testimony time. Sister Dorothy has been part of this church for 42 years, he said. She and Brother Leonard built not just a business but a ministry. They hired our young people. They sponsored our youth programs. They lived their faith. And now, in her time of trial, we stand with her. The whole congregation stood up. The applause filled the sanctuary. I cried right there in front of God and everyone. After service, my phone, which I'd turned back on, had 42 messages of support. Old employees, customers, friends, people I hadn't heard from in years, all reaching out to tell me they were praying for me. They supported me. They'd always known I was the real backbone of Williams Auto Repair, but there were also messages from people I didn't expect. The first was from Raymond Tucker, the man who'd bought the company from Darius. Mrs. Williams, this is Raymond Tucker from Tucker Automotive Group. I need to speak with you urgently. Please call me at your earliest convenience. The second was from a lawyer I didn't know. Mrs. Williams, my name is Jasmine Porter from Porter & Associates. I represent Raymond Tucker. We need to discuss the sale of Williams Auto Repair. The situation is complex, and we'd like to meet with you and your attorney as soon as possible. I called Mr. Blackwell immediately. Dorothy, I just got off the phone with them, he said. Tucker's lawyers are, well, they're not happy. He paid Darius a $3 million deposit before the sale finalized. Now that deposit is stuck in escrow because the sale is invalid. $3 million? That's just the deposit. The full sale price was $8 million. But here's the interesting part. Tucker claims he had no idea about the conditions in Leonard's will. He says Darius presented himself as the sole owner with full authority to sell. That's fraud. Exactly. Tucker wants his deposit back. He's threatening to sue Darius for fraud and misrepresentation. But he also wants to talk to you about potentially buying the company legitimately, with your consent this time. I don't want to sell Leonard's company. I know. But Dorothy, you need to at least take the meeting. Tucker's angry, but he's reasonable. And his lawyers are very good. We need to handle this carefully. I agreed to meet with them on Tuesday. Meanwhile, my phone wouldn't stop ringing with calls from Darius. I finally sent him a text. Contact Mr. Blackwell if you need legal assistance. I have nothing more to say to you. His response came an hour later. Mom, the U.S. Embassy says they can't help us. We're about to be arrested for not paying the hotel. Please. I stared at that message for a long time. Beatrice found me in the kitchen, crying. What happened? I showed her the message. She read it and shook her head. Dorothy, you know what he's doing, right? He's manipulating you, playing on your love for him. But what if it's real? What if he really is about to be arrested? Then he'll face the consequences of his actions. He's 37 years old. He chose to take this trip. He chose to sell the company without asking you. He chose to spend money he didn't really have. This is not your emergency. He's my son. And you're his mother. A mother he disrespected and discarded. Dorothy, if you save him now, what does he learn? I knew she was right. But knowing something and feeling it are two different things. That night, I got a call from an unknown international number. Mrs. Williams? A woman's voice, accent heavy. This is Francesca Rossi from Hotel Milano Luxury. I have your son and his wife here. They have an outstanding bill of 9,300 euros. They claim they cannot pay. They gave me your number and said you would handle it. Ma'am, I said carefully, I am not responsible for my son's debts. He says you have his money. He says you froze his accounts. I don't have his money. His accounts are frozen due to legal matters involving fraud. I suggest you contact the American Embassy. We have already. Mrs. Williams, please. If they cannot pay, we must involve the police. your son will be detained. Part of me wanted to pay it, to wire the money and save my baby from an Italian jail cell. But I thought about Leonard, about everything we'd sacrificed, about the disrespect, about being called a burden. "Ma'am," I said, "that is between you and my son. I cannot help you." I hung up. 2 hours later, Vanessa called me. Her number wasn't blocked because I'd never bothered to save it. "You vindictive old woman!" she screamed. "You're really going to let us rot in jail?" "I'm not letting you do anything. You made choices. Darius gave you everything, that house, that cushy life, and this is how you repay him?" I laughed. I actually laughed. "Vanessa, baby, let me explain something to you. That house? Leonard and I bought it in 1985 with money we saved working 80-hour weeks. That cushy life? I earned it building a business from nothing while raising a child and keeping our books. Darius didn't give me anything. He inherited what his father and I built, and he tried to take away what I'd earned. He's your son! And I'm his mother. The mother he called a burden. Now I suggest you contact your parents for help, since you clearly married my son for his money. Good luck, Vanessa." I hung up and blocked her number. The next morning, Mr. Blackwell called with news. "Dorothy, Darius managed to contact me. He's been detained by Italian authorities for non-payment. Vanessa, too. They're being held pending resolution of the hotel bill and their return flights." My heart sank despite everything. "The U.S. Embassy is involved," Theodore continued. "They can facilitate deportation back to the United States, but Darius and Vanessa will be banned from returning to Italy, and there will be legal proceedings here about the fraud situation with Tucker." What happens now? The embassy can loan them money for flights home. It's called a repatriation loan. They'll have to repay it. But Dorothy, there's more. Tucker's lawyers want to meet tomorrow. They've done some digging into what Darius did with the company in the last 2 years, and they've found some concerning things. What kind of things? Things that might constitute embezzlement. Things that Leonard's original business structure wouldn't have allowed, but that Darius hid from you when he cut you out of company decisions. I felt cold all over. How much? We won't know until we audit everything. But Dorothy, it could be significant. Tucker's forensic accountants found irregularities in the books going back 18 months. Money that should have been company assets but was moved to personal accounts. Contracts that were changed to benefit Darius personally rather than the business. He stole from his own company? It looks that way, and technically he stole from you too, since you owned 40%. Dorothy, this is bigger than just an invalid sale. This could be criminal. I sat down hard in Leonard's favorite chair. What do I do, Theodore? You take the meeting with Tucker tomorrow. You listen to what they found, and then you decide how you want to proceed. But Dorothy, I want you to understand something. You have the power here. You own that company now. You decide what happens next. That evening, I sat in Leonard's study, the room where he used to go over the books every night, where he'd taught Darius about business, where we'd planned our future together. I pulled out the photo albums, pictures of baby Darius in Leonard's arms, Darius's first day of school, his high school graduation, his college acceptance letter, his wedding to Vanessa, where he'd barely looked at me the whole day. I remembered something Leonard had said once, near the end. Dorothy, if that boy ever forgets where he came from, you remind him, even if it hurts, even if he hates you for it. Because real love isn't just being kind. Sometimes it's being strong enough to let someone face the truth. I closed the album and made my decision. The next day, I walked into Mr. Blackwell's conference room wearing the navy suit Leonard had bought me for our 35th anniversary. My hair was done, my head was high. Raymond Tucker stood when I entered. He was a tall man, maybe 55, with kind eyes and a firm handshake. Mrs. Williams, thank you for meeting with me. Mr. Tucker. His lawyer, Jasmine Porter, was a sharp-looking woman in her 40s. She laid out documents on the table. "Mrs. Williams, I want to start by saying that my client had no knowledge of the conditions in your late husband's will. Your son presented himself as the sole owner with full authority to sell. We did our due diligence on the business assets, but we relied on the ownership documents he provided, documents that appeared legitimate." "I understand. However," she continued, "in the course of our due diligence after the sale was challenged, we discovered significant financial irregularities. With your permission, I'd like to walk you through what we found." For the next hour, they showed me everything: bank transfers, modified contracts, shell accounts, money that had been siphoned from Williams Auto Repair into Darius's personal accounts. Over $2 million. $2 million that should have been company profits. Profits I should have received 40% of. Money that had paid for Darius and Vanessa's luxury apartment, their cars, their designer clothes, their Italy trip. Money stolen from the business his father and I had built. I sat there, numb, as they laid out the evidence of my son's betrayal. "Mrs. Williams," Raymond Tucker said gently, "I want you to know something. I grew up poor. My father was a mechanic too. I built my company from nothing, just like your husband did. When I heard about Williams Auto Repair, I wasn't interested in just another acquisition. I was interested in honoring a legacy, a Black-owned business that had served its community for 40 years. That meant something to me." He paused. "Your son lied to me. He stole from you. He disrespected everything your husband built. But Mrs. Williams, the business itself, it's still good. The reputation is still strong. The employees who are left, they still believe in it. And I still want to be part of it, if you'll have me." "What are you proposing?" "A partnership, not a sale. You retain 51% ownership. I take 49% and handle daily operations. We restore your husband's original business model. Fair prices, community focus, employee development. We bring back the people your son fired. We rebuild the reputation, and we split the profits fairly." I looked at Mr. Blackwell. He nodded slightly. "And what about my son?" I asked. Raymond and Jasmine exchanged glances. "That's up to you," Jasmine said. "We have enough evidence to pursue criminal charges for fraud and embezzlement. The district attorney would likely be very interested in this case. Your son could face significant jail time." "Or?" I asked, because there was clearly an or. "Or we settle this civilly. He returns what he stole, sells his apartment, his cars, whatever it takes. He repays my client's deposit. He signs away any claim to the company forever, and he faces no criminal charges. But he learns no lesson," I said quietly. "With respect, Mrs. Williams," Raymond said, "I think he's learning a lesson right now in an Italian detention center." "Fair point. I need time to think," I said. "Of course. Take all the time you need." I stood to leave, and Jasmine handed me one more document. "Mrs. Williams, this came in this morning. Your son's attorney, appointed by the embassy, has filed an emergency motion. He's asking the court to unfreeze his accounts on the grounds that the account freeze is causing him undue hardship and potential international criminal charges. There's a hearing tomorrow at 2 p.m. I looked at the document. My son, trying one more time to manipulate the system, to avoid consequences. "I'll be there," I said. That night, Darius called from Italy. I answered. "Mom!" His voice was broken. Exhausted. "They're sending us home tomorrow. We're banned from Italy. The embassy is loaning us money for flights that we have to repay. Vanessa's parents won't help. They're furious with her. Mom, I lost everything. The company, the money, everything." "Yes," I said simply. "I'm sorry. I'm so sorry. You were right. About everything. I got greedy. I let Vanessa influence me. I forgot what Dad taught me. I forgot what you and Dad sacrificed. I'm sorry, Mom. Please, please forgive me." And God help me, I wanted to. I wanted to forgive my baby and make everything okay. But I thought about Leonard, about his last words. Don't let nobody make you forget how strong you are. Darius, I love you. I will always love you. But love doesn't mean protecting you from the consequences of your choices. You're coming home to face what you did. You stole from the company. You lied to Mr. Tucker. You violated your father's will. And tomorrow, you're going to stand in front of a judge and explain why you should have access to money that isn't legally yours. Mom, I'll see you in court, baby. I hung up. The next day, I walked into that courtroom with Mr. Blackwell on one side and Beatrice on the other. Raymond Tucker sat behind us in support. The courtroom was packed. Apparently, word had spread about this case. Church members, former employees, community members, all there to support me. And then the doors opened, and Darius walked in. He looked terrible, unshaven, exhausted, defeated. Vanessa was with him, looking equally destroyed. They'd clearly come straight from the airport, probably on the repatriation loan from the embassy. Our eyes met across the courtroom, and for the first time in 3 years, I saw my son actually see me, not as a burden, not as an obstacle, but as the woman who'd sacrificed everything for him and had the strength to let him fall when he needed to learn to stand. The judge entered, and the bailiff called the court to order. Case number 2025, CV 8847, Darius Williams versus Dorothy Williams, regarding emergency motion to unfreeze accounts. The judge, a stern black woman in her 60s named Judge Patricia Morrison, looked over her glasses at both sides. Counselors, make this quick. I have a full docket. Darius's attorney, a young public defender who looked overwhelmed, stood up. Your Honor, my client is facing serious financial hardship due to... Judge Morrison held up her hand. Counselor, I've read the briefs. I've seen the evidence. Your client sold a company he didn't have the legal right to sell, stole over $2 million from said company, and then called his elderly mother, who built that business, a burden before flying to Italy for a luxury vacation. Do I have that right? The courtroom was silent. Your Honor, those are allegations. They're documented facts, Counselor. Bank records, signed contracts, recorded conversations. She looked at Darius. Mr. Williams, stand up. Darius stood, shaking. Do you understand that what you did could result in criminal charges? Fraud, embezzlement, elder financial abuse? Yes, Your Honor, Darius whispered. Do you understand that the only reason you're not in handcuffs right now is because your mother, the woman you called a burden, hasn't pressed charges? Darius's face crumpled. Yes, Your Honor. Judge Morrison looked at me. Mrs. Williams, what are you asking this court to do? I stood up slowly. The courtroom waited, and I said the words that would change everything. Your Honor, I want justice. Not just for me, but for every person who trusted my son, every employee he fired, every customer he cheated, every dollar he stole from the legacy his father built. I want a full forensic audit. I want every penny accounted for, and I want my son to face the consequences of what he's done, whether that's criminal prosecution, civil restitution, or both. The courtroom erupted. Darius collapsed back into his chair, his lawyer scrambling to steady him. Vanessa started crying, and Judge Morrison banged her gavel, a slight smile on her face. Motion denied. Accounts remain frozen, pending full investigation. We're adjourned. As I walked out of that courtroom, reporters were waiting outside. Cameras. Questions shouted from every direction. Mrs. Williams, are you really going to press charges against your own son? Mrs. Williams, how does it feel to take back your company? Mrs. Williams, what message do you have for other elderly people facing financial abuse? I stopped on the courthouse steps. Mr. Blackwell tried to pull me away, but I stood firm. "I have one thing to say," I announced, and the crowd quieted. My late husband Leonard and I built something real, something that mattered, not just a business, but a legacy of integrity, hard work, and community. When you betray that legacy, when you steal from your family, disrespect your parents, and forget where you came from, there are consequences. I love my son. I always will. But sometimes love means standing firm. Sometimes love means saying no more. And sometimes the greatest gift you can give someone is the chance to face what they've done and become better for it. The cameras flashed, the questions continued, but I walked away, head high, with Beatrice and Mr. Blackwell at my side. Behind me, I heard Darius call out, "Mom! Mom! Please!" I didn't turn around, because the real battle was just beginning. And this time, Dorothy Williams wasn't backing down. The forensic audit took 6 weeks. 6 weeks of investigators going through every bank statement, every contract, every transaction from the past 3 years. 6 weeks of watching my son's betrayal laid bare in spreadsheets and legal documents. 6 weeks of discovering just how deep the theft had gone. Mr. Blackwell called me on a Tuesday morning in late December. "Dorothy, you need to sit down for this." I sat. The final audit report is in. The total amount misappropriated from Williams Auto Repair over the past 30 months is $2.4 million. I closed my eyes. Leonard's face appeared in my mind, the way he'd looked when we first opened that tiny shop, so full of hope and pride. "There's more," Theodore continued. "Darius also took out loans against the business without proper authorization, loans that put the company in serious debt. The business you think is worth $8 million? After the debt is cleared, it's worth about $5 million. He destroyed it. He damaged it badly. But Dorothy, it's not destroyed. Raymond Tucker still wants that partnership. And I have some ideas about how we can restore everything." That afternoon, I met with Raymond Tucker, his lawyer Jasmine Porter, and my team at the Williams Auto Repair headquarters, the building Leonard and I had purchased 25 years ago. The current employees, the ones Darius hadn't fired yet, gathered in the main garage. They looked nervous. Most of them were young people Darius had hired cheap to replace Leonard's loyal workers. I stood in front of them in the place where Leonard had taught so many young men and women to work with integrity. "My name is Dorothy Williams," I said. "Some of you don't know me, but I built this company alongside my late husband, Leonard. 40 years ago, we started with nothing but a dream and a commitment to our community. And today, I'm here to tell you that we're going back to that foundation." Raymond Tucker stepped forward. "Effective immediately, Mrs. Williams and I are partners. She owns 51%. I own 49%. We're restructuring everything. We're bringing back the employees who were wrongfully terminated. We're restoring the original pricing model. We're recommitting to community service and mentorship." I continued. "If you want to be part of this new chapter, you're welcome to stay. But understand, this company is built on honesty, hard work, and respect. If you can't commit to that, this isn't the place for you." One by one, the employees nodded. And over the next 2 weeks, we brought back the old guard. Brother Marcus returned as head mechanic. Sister Geraldine's son Terrell came back as shop manager. We rehired 12 people Darius had fired, and we did it with back pay for the time they'd lost. The community responded immediately. Customers who'd stopped coming returned. The church started sending people again. Word spread. Williams Auto Repair was back. But while the business healed, the legal situation with Darius intensified. The district attorney's office called me in January. "Mrs. Williams, I'm Assistant DA Kevin Chen. We've reviewed the evidence in your son's case. What he did constitutes multiple felonies: embezzlement, fraud, elder financial abuse. We're prepared to prosecute to the fullest extent of the law, but we need you to testify." I looked at this young prosecutor, so eager for justice. What would he face? Realistically, 8 to 12 years in federal prison. 8 to 12 years. My son, in prison, for most of what remained of my life. Can I think about it? Mrs. Williams, with respect, this isn't just about you. Your son defrauded a potential buyer. He stole from a business that employs people. He violated trust. This needs consequences. I understand, but he's still my son. Give me 1 week. That night I went to Leonard's grave for the first time since the courthouse hearing. Baby, I said, kneeling at his headstone. I don't know what to do. Our son, he's lost everything. His marriage is falling apart. Vanessa left him the day they got back from Italy. He's living in a motel. He has nothing. And now, they want to send him to prison. The winter wind blew through the cemetery. What would you want me to do? Would you want me to press charges? Or would you want me to find another way? I sat there for an hour, talking to my husband, until the answer came to me. Not from him, from inside myself. The next day, I called a meeting. Mr. Blackwell, Raymond Tucker, Jasmine Porter, the DA's office, and Darius's public defender. And I invited Darius. He showed up looking hollow. He'd lost weight. His expensive clothes were wrinkled. He looked like a man who'd lost everything, because he had. Everyone sat around the conference table at Mr. Blackwell's office. I've made a decision, I announced. Mr. Chen, I appreciate your office's willingness to prosecute, but I'm not going to press criminal charges. Darius's head snapped up. Hope flickered in his eyes. However, I continued, and that hope dimmed, this is not forgiveness without accountability. Darius, here are your options. Option 1. I press charges. You go to trial. You likely spend the next decade in prison. Option 2. You agree to my terms. What terms? He whispered. I slid a document across the table. You will repay every penny you stole. $2.4 million. You'll sell everything. Your car, your furniture, everything of value. Whatever's left after that, you'll pay back through wage garnishment. 25% of every paycheck you earn for the rest of your working life goes to repaying this debt. Darius nodded, tears streaming down his face. You will sign a legal document relinquishing any and all claims to Williams Auto Repair, now and forever. You will have no ownership, no say in operations, no access to company funds. You are completely cut off from the business your father built. Okay, he choked out. You will complete a court-ordered financial management course and a program on elder abuse awareness. You will do 200 hours of community service at Sweet Hope Baptist Church, helping with our youth mentorship program, so you can remember what your father taught you about serving others. Yes, Mom. Anything. And finally, I said, my voice breaking now too, you will attend family counseling with me, once a week, for 1 year. Because, Darius, you're still my son. I still love you. But our relationship is broken, and if there's any hope of fixing it, we have to do the work. Darius broke down completely. Mom, I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry. I let you down. I let Dad down. I became someone I hate. I'm sorry. I know you are, baby. But sorry isn't enough. You have to do the work to become who your father raised you to be. The DA's office agreed to the arrangement. Darius signed every document. And just like that, the immediate crisis was over. But the healing? That was just beginning. The first family counseling session was brutal. Dr. Angela Washington, our therapist, didn't pull punches. Darius, walk me through your thinking when you called your mother a burden. He squirmed in his chair. I sat across from him, watching my son face himself. I don't know. Vanessa kept saying Mom was costing us money, that we couldn't really live until we were free of obligations. And I started believing it. Did you ever ask your mother how she felt? No. Did you ever consider what she'd sacrificed for you? Not enough. Not until it was too late. Dr. Bay. Washington turned to me. Dorothy, how did it feel when your son called you a burden? The tears came instantly. Like everything Leonard and I built meant nothing. Like 40 years of sacrifice were invisible. Like I was just an obstacle to my own son's happiness instead of the woman who gave him everything. Darius sobbed. Mom, I see you now. I see what you did. What you and Dad did. I was so blind. You were greedy, I said, and my voice was steel. You were selfish. You let a woman you barely knew convince you to discard your own mother. You spat on your father's legacy. You stole from the people who loved you. I know. Do you? Do you really? Because, Darius, the worst part wasn't the money. It was the disrespect. It was being invisible to my own child. We cried together in that office. And slowly, painfully, we started to rebuild. Spring came to our city with a warmth that felt like renewal. Williams Auto Repair was thriving. Under Raymond Tucker's business management and my financial oversight, we'd not only recovered from Darius's damage, but had expanded. We'd opened a training program for young people, just like Leonard had always wanted, teaching automotive skills and business principles. Brother Marcus ran the training program. Miss Dorothy, your husband would be so proud. We got 15 young people learning trades, earning good money, building futures. The church held a special service in April to honor Leonard's legacy and celebrate the business's restoration. Pastor Jenkins preached about integrity, legacy, and the importance of honoring those who came before us. Brother Leonard built more than a business, he said from the pulpit. He built a foundation. And when someone tried to tear that foundation down, Sister Dorothy stood firm. She reminded us all that real strength isn't about holding on. It's about knowing when to stand up and say no more. The congregation stood and applauded. I sat in that same pew where Leonard and I had sat for 42 years, and I felt his presence. Darius was there too, sitting in the back. He'd been attending every Sunday, part of his community service. He helped with the youth program, mentored young men, slowly rebuilt his reputation one act of service at a time. After the service, he approached me carefully. Mom, can I talk to you? We walked outside to the church garden, where Leonard and I had gotten married all those years ago. I got a job, he said. At Tucker Automotive Group. Raymond hired me. Not at Williams, he said that wouldn't be appropriate, but at one of his other locations. I'm starting as a service advisor. Entry level. $40,000 a year. That's good, son. 25% goes to repaying you. That's $10,000 a year. At this rate, it'll take me, he did the math, his face falling, 240 years to pay you back. Then I guess you better ask for a raise eventually, I said, and smiled slightly. He laughed, a broken, sad sound. Mom, I know I can never really make this right, but I'm trying. Every day, I'm trying to be the man Dad raised me to be. I know you are. Do you think... He hesitated. Do you think you'll ever forgive me? I thought about that question, about forgiveness and consequences and love. Darius, I forgave you the day you were born. That's what mothers do. But forgiveness doesn't mean forgetting. It doesn't mean there aren't consequences. It means I'm choosing to let you earn back my trust, piece by piece, day by day. That's fair. And son, I'm proud of you for doing the work, for showing up, for trying. Your father would be too. We hugged there in the garden, and for the first time in 3 years, it felt like hugging my son instead of a stranger. In June, Raymond Tucker called me with news. Dorothy, I've been approached by a national automotive magazine. They want to do a feature on Williams Auto Repair. How a widow saved her husband's legacy and rebuilt a community institution. They want to interview you. Me? You, the woman who stood up to fraud, restored a business. and taught everyone watching that elderly people aren't burdens, they're foundations. The article came out in August. It was a 6-page spread with photos of the shop, interviews with employees, and my story told from beginning to end. The headline read, "Dorothy Williams, the burden that bore everything." Within days, my phone was ringing with interview requests, local news, national news, a podcast about financial abuse, a documentary filmmaker. I did a few interviews, always with the same message: respect your elders, honor their sacrifices, and remember, just because someone is aging doesn't mean they've stopped being strong. The story went viral. I started receiving letters from elderly people all over the country who'd faced similar situations. Children who'd stolen from them, families who'd discarded them, the vulnerable who'd been exploited. I answered every single letter, and I started a foundation, the Leonard Williams Legacy Fund, to help elderly victims of financial abuse with legal support and resources. Beatrice helped me run it. Brother Marcus served on the board. Even Raymond Tucker donated significant funds. "Your husband would be amazed," Beatrice told me one evening as we sorted through donation checks in my kitchen. "Look at what you've built from this pain." "Leonard always said our struggles can become someone else's strength," I replied. "I'm just honoring that." The 1-year anniversary of that terrible confrontation came in October. Darius asked if he could take me to dinner. Not somewhere fancy, he couldn't afford that anymore. A small family restaurant in our old neighborhood. We sat across from each other, and I saw a different man than the one who'd called me a burden. This Darius was humbler, wiser, scarred by consequences but growing stronger for it. "Mom, I've been in therapy for a year now, working on myself, understanding how I got so lost." "And what have you learned?" "That I was never poor, but I was always afraid of being poor. That I measured my worth by my bank account instead of my character. That I let Vanessa's materialism become my own, because it was easier than facing my own insecurities." Those are good realizations. "Dr. Washington says I was trying to prove I was better than Dad. That's why I changed everything at the business. I wanted to show I could make more money, be more successful. But I lost sight of what actually mattered. Your father was successful, Darius. Maybe not by Wall Street standards, but by the measures that matter: integrity, community, legacy. I know that now." He paused. "I heard you started the foundation. I'd like to volunteer, if you'll let me. Help other people avoid the mistakes I made." "I'd like that." We ate our meal in comfortable silence, and when he dropped me off at home, the home Leonard and I had built, the home I'd fought to keep, he hugged me tight. "I love you, Mom, and I'm going to spend the rest of my life proving I'm worthy of the sacrifices you and Dad made." "I love you too, baby, and you're already proving it." That night, I stood in Leonard's study, looking at the photo of us on our wedding day. 2 kids who had nothing but dreams and determination. "We did good, Leonard," I said to his picture. "Our boy lost his way, but he's finding it again. The business is strong. The community is thriving, and I'm still here, still standing, still building." I felt a peace settle over me that I hadn't felt since Leonard passed. Not because everything was perfect. Darius still had decades of repayment ahead of him. His relationship with me was still healing. The pain of his betrayal still ached sometimes. But because I'd stood firm, I'd refused to be invisible. I'd honored everything Leonard and I had built together. I'd taught my son the hardest lesson a mother can teach: that love sometimes means consequences, that respect must be earned, that you can't discard the people who built you up and expect to stand tall. And I'd taught myself something too: that I was strong enough to stand alone if I had to, that my worth wasn't measured by whether my child appreciated me, that I was Dorothy Mitchell Williams, builder, fighter, survivor, not a burden, a foundation. 2 years later, Williams Auto Repair celebrated its 42nd anniversary. We threw a community celebration, free oil changes for seniors, a scholarship program announcement for young people pursuing trade careers, a memorial plaque honoring Leonard's vision. Darius was there, now working as a regional manager at Tucker Automotive. He'd been promoted 3 times, was earning a decent living, and was slowly rebuilding his reputation. He stood at the podium during the ceremony. My father built this business on principles I forgot: integrity, service, community. My mother saved it by remembering what I'd lost. She taught me the hardest lesson I've ever learned, that real wealth isn't in your bank account. It's in your character. It's in how you treat people. It's in the legacy you build. He looked at me. Mom, thank you for not giving up on me, even when I gave up on myself. The crowd applauded. I stood there with Raymond Tucker on one side and Beatrice on the other, surrounded by the community Leonard and I had served for 4 decades. And I felt complete. Not because my son had apologized, not because the business was successful, not because justice had been served, but because I'd honored Leonard's memory. I'd stood for what was right. I'd refused to be diminished. And I'd shown everyone watching, every elderly person being exploited, every parent being disrespected, every vulnerable person being taken advantage of, that we don't have to accept being called burdens. We can stand up, we can fight back, we can reclaim our dignity, because we're not burdens. We're the foundation everything else is built on. And foundations don't crumble, they stand. That night, back in the house Leonard and I had filled with 42 years of memories, I sat in my kitchen with a cup of tea and looked at my phone. There was a text from Darius. Thank you for today, Mom. Dad would be proud of you. I know I am. Love you. I smiled and replied, Love you too, baby. See you Sunday. Because that's what we did now. Sunday dinners, family counseling, slow, steady rebuilding of what had been broken. It wasn't perfect. Some things would never be the same. But it was real. It was honest. It was built on truth. Just like everything Leonard and I had ever built. I looked at his photo on the wall, that beautiful man with grease under his fingernails and dreams in his heart. We made it, baby, I whispered. We built something that lasted. And in the quiet of my home, I felt him smile. Thanks for listening. Don't forget to subscribe and feel free to share your story in the comments. Your voice matters.